Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Matt Modi with OddsJam. And today I will be doing a preview of the Sunday NFL wildcard football games. So previously I did Saturday between the Bills and the Patriots and the Bengals and the Raiders. I've also done an early lines video where I identified early bets to get in on where I think they would beat closing line. So far, so good with those. So definitely make sure to check out, as far as beating the closing line. So definitely make sure to check out those videos for my previous picks. And I will preface that for these games, I didn't have a play in the Chiefs and Steelers game on my early lines video, but I did have a play on the Bucs Eagles. I took the Eagles plus 9.5. That spread, while it still has beaten closing line, that spread has continued to stay at the Eagles plus 8.5 or 9.5, depending on where you look. And then for the Cowboys 49ers game, I took the Cowboys money line at minus 150 best odds, which that one did beat closing line. And I also took the Cowboys 49ers over 49.5. Again, another one that beat closing line. The total opened at 49.5 for that, or excuse me, 59.5 for that game. I got it at 49.5, and the total has increased to 51. So just wanted to preface that before I get started that I did lock in some early lines, but I'll look at each game individually, and I'll give bets specifically for each one and some football analysis. So the first one at 1 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday is between the Bucs at home against my Eagles. I prefaced this in my early lines video, but I am a diehard Eagles fan, if you couldn't tell. I like to joke that I know more about the Eagles than I do my own family. So I try to do as much as I can to not come across as biased. I just have such in-depth knowledge of them that I tend to go a little overboard. So I'll try to keep it a little chiller for this one. But obviously, as you can imagine, Tom Brady, the Bucs at home, pretty heavy favorites over the Eagles. OddsJam Perfect Line has the Eagles at plus 307. Money line and the Bucs at minus 372. It does appear there's a little more value on the Eagles at plus 325 than there is the Bucs. But again, I'm not touching the Eagles money line. I don't think they really have a great chance of winning. And certainly the Bucs, I'm not taking anything minus 370. And I'll mention this later, but one thing I do like is parlaying the money line favorites on teams that are very confident in winning. So that's something to check out on Twitter for me. But where I do think there is a play is on the point spread. So, like I said, as of right now, the Bucs are about 8.5, 9.5 point favorites, depending on where you're looking at. And if you look at the positive value, it kind of trends towards the Eagles pretty consistently. So 4 points at Eagles plus 7.5, 1 point at Eagles plus 8. 3 points at 8.5, 2 points at 9, 3 points at 9.5, 8 points at 10, and going on and on. So value does show some positive value towards the Eagles. So does the sharp money. So again, I mentioned this before, but I always like to bet against the public, and I always like to back the money. So the Bucs are getting 62% of the ticket percentage, but only 69% of the money. Or excuse me, the Eagles are getting 69% of the money, while the Bucs are getting 62% of the ticket percentage. So those two things immediately point me towards the Eagles covering, and I think that's a good bet. So these two teams have played earlier, and there's a couple things to note from that, and which is hard to take it to mean much. So the Eagles and Bucs played. This was back in October. The Bucs only won by 6, but the game was not nearly as close as that final score indicates. There was at no point in time was there any thought as to whether the Eagles could actually make the comeback. So the Bucs got out to a 28-7 lead. So the third quarter touchdown, the Bucs scored first. So it was 28-7, and then the Bucs kind of let off the gas. So if you look at Tom Brady's stats, I mean, he put up 297 yards passing. They put up over 100 yards rushing. And this is probably Jalen Hurts' his worst game as a pro. Through 12 of 26, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The Eagles only gave Miles Sanders 9 carries. No other running back got a carry. Jalen Hurts ran 10 times. This was the game in which the Eagles made a drastic shift in their offensive approach. So leading up until this Bucs game, the Eagles had heavily passed it. They ran it 3 times against the Cowboys in this game. The Eagles coach, Nick Sirianni, was getting incredible criticism for not running the ball. And after this game, the Eagles made a dramatic shift in their offense. So if you look at their point total before, it doesn't look as bad. So 21 points, a lot of these against the Cowboys were in garbage time. Chiefs game, this was the beginning of the season where the Chiefs offense was terrible. Against the Panthers, they had multiple interceptions from Darnold where they got the ball in plus territory. But after this Bucs game, 22 points against the Raiders. Again, that was kind of a bad game where they put up some points in garbage time, so that really doesn't count too much. But it all starts with this Lions game. 44 points against the Lions, 24 against the Chargers, 30 against the Broncos, 40 against the Saints, best defense. Really bad game against the Giants. That happens. Really, really bad game. 33 against the Jets, 27 against Washington, 34 against that same Giants team where they had a bad one. Only 20 against the Washington team, so not as great of an offensive performance. And then they rested starters in this game, so don't really take much from that. So on the Eagles side, like I said, dramatically different from when these two teams met in October in a positive way. And on the Bucs side, the Bucs are dramatically different in a negative way. In this game, if you want to go back to the stats, look at the receivers that had a good game. Antonio Brown, not on the team anymore. Chris Godwin, not on the team anymore. O.J. Howard had 6 catches for 49 yards. One thing to note is that Gronk didn't play in this game, so that is obviously a huge favor in favor of the Bucs getting Gronk back. But losing Godwin, losing Antonio Brown hurts them a lot. And the last reason why I'm riding on the Eagles to cover, let me be clear, not to win, is the weather. So the weather forecast is expecting heavy winds up to 22 miles an hour and a 70% chance of rain. Obviously, Brady is the GOAT and has played remarkably in some bad weather games. But when you just look at these two teams, the Eagles, second in the NFL, 550 rushing attempts. Obviously, bad weather helps the Eagles a lot. So, again, I don't think they have enough to win the game outright, not by a long shot. But I do think that they can keep it close. And, getting them over a touchdown, I think is a really good bet. So I put 50 on the Eagles at 9.5. It looks like there's still positive value there. I'm going to stick with the Eagles getting over a touchdown, but I'm going to go ahead and take them at 8.5. The main thing is getting them above 7.5, and it looks like there's some value at 8.5. So Bet Rivers, Barstool, and Unibet. Of this game, I'm very confident in the Eagles covering the 8.5 points. So that's going to be one of my bigger plays. Not quite a $100 mixed slam, but also not $50 one. I'll put 75 on the Eagles covering 8.5 points. So now that we have that, looking towards the total. So this is an interesting situation where the total started off at 49.5. My guess is that because of the weather, it's dropped. So now it currently sits, as you can see, at 45.5 or 46. But it's really interesting because the over is still getting a heavy percentage of the money. So as of right now, the under is getting 55% of the ticket percentage, but the over is getting 99% of the money. So that's actually the biggest difference in terms of over-under for the entire wild card weekend, a 54% different in terms of percent in money. If it were my prediction, I hate going against the money, but I'm very confident in this game going under for the same reasons as I mentioned, Eagles covering. Bad weather generally favors the worst team and obviously generally favors the under. So if you look at the OddsJam perfect line, consistently trending towards the under as far as the value goes. So starting at 43, 5 points, 14 points under 43.5, 12 points under 44, 10 points at 44.5. What's this? 12 points at 45.5, and going on and on. So looks like there's about 10. DraftKings has the line at 46.5. That's what I'm going to end up taking it at. It's not getting the highest difference between the OddsJam perfect line of what you're getting it at, but I like getting a couple points just to make it safe. So that's going to be another one of my confident plays. Not quite a mixed lamb, but less than 50 to be 75 on DraftKings. And now some player props that I wanted to highlight. So these I actually haven't done any research yet, so we're going to be learning this together. So Leonard Fournette has missed a couple games, and this is his first game back. So one thing I always like to check in situations like that are what is his stats. So unfortunately, there's no OddsJam perfect line, but the over-under 15.5 attempts, I would guess he's going to go under that. I know I mentioned a bunch about how the bad weather, but I still don't think that they're going to feed Fournette. I think they're going to split time as much as they can. I'm not super confident taking it at these terrible odds, minus 135 and minus 130. So maybe I'll put that in a same-game parlay. And then because of the weather, I wanted to check on the passing yards. So it looks like, depending on the book, you can get Jalen Hurts under 200 at minus 115, or you can be smart in line shop and get him under 203 at minus 114. So not only are you getting better odds, but you're also getting it a higher number. And then Brady looks like, depending on the book, 276, 279, or 281. Doesn't show any positive expected value for Brady, which is fair because, Brady's Brady. But Hurts under 203, I'm a big fan of. So that's going to be one of my plays. I get that on FanDuel, minus 115. And that'll be my player prop play for this game. So to recap, I'm taking Jojo wants to say hi. I'm taking the Eagles plus 8.5. I'm taking the under 46.5, and I'm taking Jalen Hurts under 203.5 passing yards. And I'll have a screenshot of all my plays at the end. So definitely make sure to check that out. All right, now let's go to the Cowboys 49ers game. So as I mentioned before, when I did my early lines video, I got the Cowboys at minus 150. Luckily, there is some positive expected value there. They have changed. Now the Cowboys' best odds is minus 160. I don't like that 10-point difference, so I'm not going to touch the Cowboys' money line. I thought it was a good bet at plus 150, minus 150, but getting it at minus 160, not as great of a bet. And it's interesting, if you look at the point spread, so Vegas is projecting this to be the closest game of all of Wild Card Weekend. So the minus 3 is the closest spread. It started at 3.5. Now it's getting it's settling in at minus 3, depending on where you look. And it does look like that there is some value trending towards the Cowboys. So at minus 1.5, there's about 8 points positive expected value, 13 at 2.5, 6 at 3. And then it starts to shift and go towards the 49ers if you buy a couple points towards them. So 6 points in favor of the 49ers at 3.5, 6 points at 4, 9 points at 4.5, and so on. So to me, that does scream like an opportunity where you can middle. Vegas is pretty heavily projecting this game to finish between 3 and 3.5 points. So that also signifies that there isn't a huge play on the spread for me. I do like the Cowboys straight up, but it looks like San Francisco's getting the majority of both the ticket percentage and the money. So some interesting dynamics going on between, where you look at the public betting, where you look at the sharpest line out there, the OddsJam perfect line. Not a great play one way or another on the spread. So that's going to go ahead and be a no touch for me. But looking at the matchup itself, I think this has the chance to probably be the best game of the weekend. Obviously, it's the closest in terms of spread, but I just think it's going to be a really good game. So you got on the Cowboys side, kind of the tale of two seasons for their offense specifically. Not Cowboys schedule. So they started off the year, and up until this Patriots game, which is when Dak at the very end of the game hurt his calf. Look at the point totals they put up. 29 points against the Bucs defense when they were healthy, week 1 of the year. 20 points against the Chargers, which is kind of weak when you look back on it. But 41 against the Eagles, 36 against the Panthers, 44 against the Giants, and then in OT, 35 against the Patriots. But This game, if you remember, the Cowboys put up an obscene amount of yardage. They just got stopped multiple times in the red zone. I believe they turned it over twice in the Patriots end zone. So really they could have put up a lot more points than they did. But then if you go back to their schedule, Dak gets hurt. Where are we? Dak gets hurt. He misses this game against the Vikings. And then look at some of the point totals they've had since Dak came back. 16 against the Broncos. They absolutely smoked the Falcons. Good for them. Good game. Only 9 points against the Chiefs. 33 points against the Raiders, which is pretty good. 27 against a good Saints defense. But this was a weird game. I think it was Taysom Hill's first game back. So the Saints didn't have a great offensive performance. This Washington 27 points looks better than it was because they had multiple turnovers and they also had a defensive touchdown. So their offense only put up 20. And they had a couple turnovers. Dak threw a gross pick six. 21 points against the Giants, but they only gave up 6. So it was kind of hard to really put too much credit. And maybe they could have scored more if they needed to. 56 against Washington in the game where Washington was fighting on the sidelines. Just absolutely took it to them. Everybody thought their offense was back, and then they kind of had a clunker against the Cardinals where they came on late, but up until a certain point, I mean, they put up 15 points in the fourth quarter, so up until then, they only had 1 touchdown against the Cardinals team that had been reeling. And then you can't put any credit into the 56 points they scored last week or 51 against the Eagles because the Eagles didn't play a single defensive starter in that game. It was all backups. So they go against a 49ers team who is very strong up front, very well coached. I like their defensive coordinator in DeMeco Ryans. But they're weak in the secondary. Despite getting some players back, that is where they're weakest. So if the Cowboys offense can look like they did earlier in the year, I believe they can put up a decent amount of points on this 49ers defense. I think that as long as, Tyron Smith, you hope, can contain Nick Bosa, who had a great bounce back year. And then on the other side of the ball, the Cowboys defense might be the best defense in the league. If you go back to their point totals, 19 to the Chiefs is pretty impressive. This Broncos game didn't really look the 30 points was kind of misleading because of their offense. 35 or 29 to the Patriots, again misleading. They had one broken play, 75-yard touchdown. Other than that, they looked pretty good. And then 6 to the Giants, 20 to Washington, again, a game where they gave up a pick 6, only really 13. And they lead the league in takeovers. Trayvon Diggs has had a great year. Linebacker from Penn State, Micah Parsons could very well be the defensive player of the year. A ton of talent at all 3 levels. Obviously, they got DeMarcus Lawrence on the defensive end. They're well coached in Dan Quinn. So Cowboys, if they play up to their potential, could very well be the best team in the NFL, but they've just been so hit or miss on offense. And then on the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers, incredibly well schemed with the madman Kyle Shanahan, but can you really trust Jimmy G? My answer is no. So my prediction is that the Cowboys do win, but because of the where the money's going and kind of how there's some value on both sides for the Cowboys and the 49ers, depending on, you sell points both ways. Doesn't make me confident enough to take the spread, but one play I do really like for this game, and I took it in my early lines, is the over. So I talked about how the Cowboys offense, it's kind of hit or miss, but I do think that they'll be able to put up points against the 49ers defense. And I also think that a way that they'll be able to put up points is through turnovers. So Jimmy G, he's thrown some bad interceptions. And if you look at the line, so first of all, like I said, the total opened at 50.5. I got it at 49.5. I got it. I bought a couple points, so I got it at minus 115, minus 120. I forget the exact odds. It opened at 50.5. Now it's at 51. And it does look like the value, depending on if you buy or sell a couple points, is almost towards both. So like over 48, 6 points positive expected value. Over 49, 7 points. Over 49.5, 3 points. Looks like 2 points, or that's the under, excuse me. And then starting at 50, looks like it trends a little more towards the under. So 3 points at under 50. 1 point at under 50.5, 3 points at under 51. And then it goes back towards the over at 51.5. So it looks like this is a game where Vegas seems pretty confident. Similarly to the spread, they seem pretty confident in this total being between 50, 51, something like that, because there's kind of value both ways. So I'm glad I got this total in earlier. I got it at better than minus 120 because it's actually going to end up being a no play for me. So I'm glad I walked through it. I'm going to end up no playing this total because of kind of what I just described. Doesn't really seem to be value one way or another. And then at the very end of the video, I'll look at some positive EV specifically to see if there's anything there. But looking at some player props, so this is a game where I kind of want to fade Jimmy G. I think that if the 49ers are going to have success, it's going to be on the ground, and they're going to try and limit what he can do. I mean, I just imagine Jimmy G getting strip sacked by Parsons, by DeMarcus Lawrence, or throwing a pick to Trayvon Diggs. And I just think that Shanahan's going to want to avoid that. So I meant to go to passing yards. So actually, it does look like there's some value on the under 31.5 attempts. Let's look at Jimmy G, his stats, to see if there's some value there. So looks like there is, as far as the OddsJam perfect line has the under 31.5 at minus 129. We can get that on 3 books at minus 115. So the attempts looks like, let's see, he has some games where he goes. So looks like in games where they're generally leading most of the way. This isn't rocket science, but he goes under that total. The last 2 games he went over, but they had to come back against the Rams, and same thing with the Titans. They came out with a good lead at halftime, then they kind of blew it, and they had to try and pass his way. Cincinnati was kind of a back and forth game. Arizona, they were losing the whole game. So I do like this under 31.5. I'm going to go ahead and I'll take this one on DraftKings, just keep it consistent. Put a middle of the play on that one. 31.5 passing attempts under. And I also wanted to look at his yards. So looks like as of right now, he's projected between 248 and 250. It does seem like there might be some value on the under, but there's just lines haven't populated enough yet for the OddsJam perfect line. So I'm going to go ahead and sit this one out. I'm going to keep my play being on the passing attempts. And then, so my only play for this Cowboys 49ers game is going to be the Jimmy Garoppolo under 31.5 passing attempts that I got at minus 115 on DraftKings. And obviously, as you can see by the screenshot posted here. All right, so now let's go to this Chiefs-Steelers game. This game, obviously, as you can see, has the highest favorite, the heaviest favorite in the Chiefs. So it looks like the OddsJam perfect line has their money line at minus 741 with the Steelers at plus 547. If you are so inclined, just want to take the free money, there is some pretty steep positive value on the Chiefs minus 650 on DraftKings. For me, I mentioned this earlier. This is I love doing this in the playoffs, money line parlay of the favorites. So teams I'm incredibly confident in winning are the Bucs, are the Bengals, and the Chiefs. Maybe the Rams. We'll have to see that one in a previous video or a future video. But either way, very confident in the Chiefs here. Not going to take that minus 650. Looking at the point spread, so this is a situation that I was actually incorrect in my early lines video. The Chiefs were getting the majority of the ticket percentage. So the line opened at Chiefs 13.5. It's been bet down a little bit to Chiefs 13 or 12.5, depending on what book you use or are looking at. I expected it to go the opposite way. So I was hoping to get the Steelers like plus 14.5. And that's where I thought the spread would go. But fortunately, that you don't win all of them. You don't get all of them right. And I was incorrect on that one. So no touch here for me on the spread. I do think the Steelers keep it within 2 touchdowns, but I'm not going to take, and there is some value there, the 13 points, but I'm not going to take it at minus 140. I mean, these two teams played late in the year, and the Chiefs just, I mean, it was almost illegal what they did to them. Just absolutely demolished them. 36-10, and that 26 points, trust me, it was not that close. As you can see, the Steelers had 3 points going into the fourth quarter. Ben Roethlisberger, 159 yards on 35 attempts. Mahomes, only 7 incompletions, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns. Could have done a lot better if he needed to. They split the running game. So I have no doubt in my mind that the Chiefs win this game, but I'm not confident enough to put that much spread on them. The concern we have for the Chiefs is they are a little bit banged up. So Tyreek Hill and Darrell Williams have been practicing. There's no risk of them missing the game, but there is a little bit weirdness going on with Tyreek Hill recently. So if you look at his stats, he kind of hasn't been himself recently. So obviously he had a monster game against the Chargers, but look at his games before and after that. Broncos, 2 for 22. Raiders, 4 for 76. Amazing blow-up monster game. 2 for 19, 6 for 40, and then 1 for 2. And the Chiefs tried in this last game against the Broncos to win. If they won, which they obviously did, and the Titans lost, they would have been the 1 seed. So they needed this game. They didn't rest any starters, and he only had 1 reception for 2 yards. So there is a little bit of concern about the Chiefs' offense not looking like themselves when Tyreek Hill is banged up. So while there's no play on the spread, I do like the under here. So this is a situation where the ticket percentage is pretty heavily towards the over. So the over started at about 48. It's now down to 46, and I'm still riding it down at that price. So the over is getting about 69 nice percent of the ticket percentage, while the under is getting 71% of the money. And I love situations like that where you can fade the public and back the money. So I'm going to end up taking it at minus 109. So the OddsJam perfect line has that at minus 114. You can get that at minus 109 on Unibet, BetRivers, and Barstool. So that's going to be, I'm going to take this on Barstool, one of my big plays, the under 46.5. And the logic is, fading the Steelers offense is one of the easiest fades you can make. There's really no scenario in which I see this offense having a good game. The Chiefs defense has been better since, the second half of the year. They've really put it together. And I'm not super confident in their offense getting it together depending on how the health of Tyreek Hill. So, even the game last time they played, when they won 36-10, obviously that would have gone under this total. And that was a game in which the Chiefs did cover, and the total still went under. So I do love that under, again, under 46.5, as you can see at Barstool, BetRivers, and Unibet. And as far as player props go, I don't have anything that I wanted to really look out for. Obviously, I'm going to check out the positive EV page after this. I did want to see receiving yards for Tyreek Hill because 68.5, 69.5, or that's Travis Kelce, excuse me. I could see him going under this total, but, you bet an under for Tyreek Hill, and who knows, you could be pretty disappointed with yourself. So it looks like, that's a no touch for me. So my only play for this Chiefs-Steelers game is going to be the under. I got at 46.5 on, again, BetRivers, Barstool, and Unibet. All right, so now we need to look at the positive EV page. I actually haven't looked at this yet at all, so it's going to be reacting in real time. Let's go to positive EV. And looks like the majority of these, the first 4 are for Saturday. Looks like the first game on Sunday that has a positive expected value is this under 43.5. So I got the total at 46.5. It looks like there is some positive expected value at 43.5. It is within market width, so whatever my calculator tells me to put on this, that's what I'm going to end up doing. So looks like it's a smaller play, only 22% of the bankroll. But for plus 140, I do like that. So that actually is going to be one of my plays. I'm going to go ahead and add this to my card, as you can see here. Just a positive expected value play that I love. Big Ben interceptions. He's probably going to throw one, but the odds on that are so bad. It says I would put 36. $35 at minus 150 isn't worth it. Looks like there's some more value at under 44. I got it at 43.5. Looks like Deebo Samuel over 59.5 receiving yards. That one I do like. So it's a smaller percentage. Or excuse me, it's the under. Sorry, I read that wrong. While he very well could go under this 60 yards, I'm not going to fade Deebo Samuel. He was on my fantasy league. I rode him to a championship. I have a soft spot in my heart for him. And again, looks like another under for the Eagles game. Looks like, so there is some value on the under 53.5, but minus 145 isn't worth it, and that's it. So only one positive expected value play, and that is this Eagles Bucs under 43.5, selling a couple points, getting it at plus 140, just putting that percentage of my bankroll on it. So that's going to be it for me today. So I had a couple plays for you. I'll post a screenshot at the very end so you can see all of them. And then look out on this channel for a Monday night preview. It's just the one game, Cardinals and Rams. And that's all I got for you. So I would appreciate you give me a follow on Twitter, where I post as much plays as I can. You can see at my handle below. You can also email me with any questions. You don't want to hit me up on Twitter, I check my DMs. But if you also want to email me, more than welcome to, Matthew@oddsjam.com. And you can also comment on the video. I'll check out those as well. And other than that, just make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. Help us grow, all that good stuff. And that's all I got for you. So happy betting, happy watching, and good luck.